Canada to pardon 500,000 people who have minor cannabis convictions. Process will waive $631 fee and eliminate 5 to 10-year wait times.
Here's a summary of the article.
The Liberal government's announcement that it will expedite the processing of pardons for people with minor cannabis-related criminal records is welcome news to tens of thousands of Canadians who have been convicted of possession offences. While the Parole Board of Canada might soon be inundated with record suspension requests, more than 500,000 Canadians have a criminal record for having pot on their person. According to a 2014 study, advocates claim the Liberal plan might not go far enough to reverse decades of historical injustice from cannabis prohibition. With a standard processing time of 6 to 12 months for a record suspension, people with a history of cannabis convictions are still at least a year away from having some form of record relief. The government recently offered to expunge criminal records for LGBTQ people who were convicted of certain crimes that have now been deemed historically unjust, with eligibility limited to 3 offences: gross indecency, buggery and anal intercourse. Spratt said many of the people who have been hit with possession-related charges in recent years, even as police have slowed such activity, are overwhelmingly marginalized groups like racial minorities, people with prior records or mental health issues, and the poor. Spratt said many disadvantaged people will have trouble fulfilling the onerous process required to apply for a pardon, including obtaining court records, procuring digital fingerprints and generally fulfilling all the other requirements of the 10-step process. If the United States has a record of your expunged conviction and denies you entry, there will be no records to retrieve while seeking a waiver to enter the U.S., a spokesperson said.
This post received a score of 68,064, with an upvote ratio of 91%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Note: 500,000 people with minor cannabis convictions is over 1% of the total population of the country.
Which is a lot. There's not a lot else to do in Canada. Curling?
Fuck yeah. Curling is awesome.
Cannabis plus curling equals contented Canadians. Plus chips.
All dressed chips.
Ruffles all dressed chips.
I was in that boat until I tried President's Choice loaded all dressed chips and they are leagues better and half the price.
If the US finally legalizes marijuana, will it have a reverse ex post facto effect? I really doubt it because of all the revenue that would be lost.
If weed does become legal, then the push to pardon drug offenders would be the next logical step. Unfortunately, this will probably cost the U.S. states way more due to the contractual agreements between them and the private prison system. I've heard contracts where prisons must always be at like 90% capacity at all times or the state will have to pay a fine. Motivation to fill prison beds is not how corrections should work.
What in the actual fuck? Like, I knew they funneled people into private prisons for profits, but I didn't realize there was basically a law mandating it. What idiot could possibly have thought this would be a good idea? Edit, everyone getting hung up on basically a law needs to kindly fuck off, as I'm bored of repeating myself.
The idiot who stood to make money from it?
Also the lawmakers. Politician, the only job where you can make the same salary as someone making $30 to $40 an hour and have millions in assets.
This is why outsiders like Trump have such an advantage nowadays. Anyone who identifies as a politician first and foremost is almost always in it for the money. And that's why I'm announcing my candidacy for the presidency. Thank you all in advance for your support. So they went for Trump, who is possibly the guy most in it for the money in the history of ever.
The idea, that he failed to uphold, was that he didn't need any graft, so wouldn't fall for it.
If having a good chunk of money was enough to get people to stop their greedy pursuit of more money, then we wouldn't have stuff like Jeff Bezos being a complete tosser towards Amazon employees. More wants more.
Fucking Canada and their common sense laws and reasonable action. You're embarrassing the rest of us.
For what it's worth, once a major first world country implements a radical change, the rest of the world usually follows pretty soon after. I wouldn't be surprised to see cannabis legal in the US and most of Europe within 5 years.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.